So obviously 29 points above the cut line, feeling safe in this format, obviously is to an extent impossible, but how do you feel going into this weekend? Are you more focused on stage points or the overall win?
Can I ask you, should I feel safe with 29 points above the cut line?
I don't know. I mean, all six of the guys not locked in are past Martinsville winners, so I think it's as evenly matched as it could possibly be.
Yes, that is a good point, and I fully expect that 29 to the cut line is a false positive, and that's one thing that I don't feel like the general public understands about the points format, right? So like I got some criticism about being disappointed of not winning at Las Vegas, and they're like, "Oh, you're still 42 points to the cut line. You're fine. You're fine." Well, not really, because you look at Homestead, the guys who are going to run well at Homestead, and the likeliness of a playoff winner at Homestead was high, and sure enough, it happened. And the same can be said about Martinsville. The contenders who are going to race for the win at Martinsville are all beneath me in points, which means that cut line is likely to move up. And I'm not 27 or 29 to the cut line. But the good news is that I am 22 points up on William. And I think we are racing for that last point spot. So we're in a really tough spot. And this is definitely the toughest spot, the most stress I've ever been into going into this event. Last year I was fortunate enough to win at Homestead and be locked in, and then the year before that, it was just you're out, and you had to win the race, and that was the only thing that mattered. You didn't have to worry about stage points. You didn't have to worry about getting wrecked. Well, I guess you did, but it was like you're already out, right? So right now we're in, but we have to fight for every last point through the stages and at the end of the race, and it's gonna be a battle.
Got it. And I think this is year five is with Martinsville as the round of eight cutoff race. What are your thoughts on this schedule change? Is there anywhere else you'd rather see Martinsville on the playoff schedule?
I mean, I think honestly, I think it's right where it needs to be. The round of eight seems like a really good spot for it. It is, a real racetrack. The cream will rise to the top here at Martinsville. Typically the restarts are really crazy, so you have a little bit of drama in there, and it's real. So I think the schedule this year is about as good. Well, I say that the round of eight is awesome. The round of 16, the round of 12 with the two super speedways gets a little mixed up, but I would rather have Martinsville, Homestead, and Vegas than have Talladega in there like we got next year.
Can't agree more. How difficult was it to learn Martinsville compared to other tracks on the circuit?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And it seems like the driver's background really has a strong indication of how well a driver is going to be right off the bat at Martinsville. And for whatever reason, dirt track racing, sprint cars, open wheel cars, has not led well to Martinsville. We've seen Larson really struggle when he got into the sport. Myself, Martinsville was probably my worst track whenever I first got into the sport. And now after having time to acclimate to it, it's become one of my better tracks. And I think the same goes for Kyle. So with that being said, it seems like the late model guys who grow up on this discipline or the discipline of pavement racing and pavement short track racing, they take to it, like it's nothing. So typically the pavement short track racers, I would say, have the edge over the dirt track guys at Martinsville.
And you have and had some pavement late model guys, Bush, Hamlin, and Truex as teammates. How much did you lean on them for helping to figure out Martinsville?
Yeah, I mean a lot, especially with the old car. Denny had his hands wrapped around this place for a number of years, and I had really good experience kind of learning from Kyle, Denny, and Martin because all three of them have become exceptionally good at this racetrack, especially with the old car, and it all stemmed from Denny. Denny was the first one to figure it out. Kyle really struggled here. And then once Kyle figured it out, he started performing well. And then Martin, pretty much dominated the end of the Gen 6 era. But I will say with Gen 7 and the next gen, it's really changed the way that you race Martinsville. And with the downshifting that you have, the big brakes, the lack of wheel hop that these cars, it's impossible to wheel hop these cars. And it was a big talking point with the old cars. So what it takes to be good at Martinsville is not the same as it was with Gen 6.
Was there a single light bulb moment where you found out how to be competitive here?
Um, it so whenever I showed up in 2020, I really, really struggled, especially that first race. The second race, I improved, and then 2021, I got a little bit better, and then really my breakout race was that 2022 fall race in the playoffs. And the biggest thing is just learning how to put it all together. 500 laps at Martinsville is arguably one of the longest races that we have on the schedule. Maybe definitely not distance wise, but time wise and just amount of repetitions. And the small things really matter at Martinsville. And that's the thing that really sank in for me. Like if you just look at all of the driver data at a glance, it all looks very similar, but it's all in the small details of their brake traces, their throttle traces, their steering traces. Everything looks very close, but it's the small details that separate the good from the bad at Martinsville.
Obviously, we'll see new tires this weekend, which we've seen already this year at Wilkesboro and at Richmond. How much of a curveball are you expecting this weekend compared to past next gen Martinsville races?
I mean, I hope that it completely flips it upside down. I think that would be really good for us. And I think that anytime you can throw a curveball at the competition, it seems like this 20 team does the best at figuring it out quickly. So I hope it's completely different.
And then last question for me, can anything from Martinsville translate to Phoenix?
Man, that's tough. I don't believe that driving techniques or setups, anything will translate from Martinsville to Phoenix, but it's a real racetrack, and I think your contenders here will probably be your contenders at Phoenix. And yeah, so I mean, I think the cream will rise to the top.
Well, Christopher, I appreciate your time this afternoon and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, take care.